Have you seen the growing number of concerned parents being repeatedly silenced by radically progressive school boards allowing heavily sexualized and at times even pornographic, inappropriate content to be brought into publicly funded schools and libraries? Here's how Rebel News is going to make sure that the concerns of you, the parents, are heard. Tamara Ugolini here with Rebel News to revamp our campaign at stopclassroomgrooming.com for an issue that is now receiving international attention due to the increasingly censorious response of radically progressive school boards, their seemingly oblivious trustees, and the cowardice response of certain education ministers. Protests are growing worldwide and here in Canada from coast to coast to coast, which is exactly why we are revamping our petition at stopclassroomgrooming.com. The petition and email blast campaign previously called on Ontario's Education Minister Stephen Lecce to assess and address the proliferation of radical school boards who have gone rogue and are implementing ideological theories such as affirming the social transition of children without their parents' knowledge or consent, soliciting the gender identity and sexual orientation of minors through school-administered surveys without parental knowledge or consent, approving sexualized books with adult content and, in some instances, even pornographic depictions in school libraries, and of course silencing anyone who questions the appropriateness or necessity of all of this while calling them hateful transphobes.
I wasn't present at the board meeting that pushed this policy through, and I can't figure out when this was done. My oldest friends can attest to my belief in the safety and inclusivity of all people. I always have. But this is about having appropriate and safe boundaries for progression and doing things in line with the parental community's wishes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Morabito, on the grounds that this creates an unsafe environment for people who identify as gender diverse, I'm going to have to ask you to end your delegation.
How does this provide an unsafe environment? Can anyone answer me that?
As trans woman Julia Malott has previously stated in one particular school board meeting, addressing a rogue policy that keeps parents in the dark about their child's identity struggles, identity is nuanced and complex, and teachers and even school counselors are simply not equipped to deal with the conceptualization of identity in children because they are still figuring it out, and they should be left to do so without being shoehorned into ideological labels.
Unlike a sexual identity like being gay or bi, a cross-gender identity is salient to everyone. Every teacher you have, every student you interact with, they all know about your gender identity. It's something you literally wear on your face. Backing this identity out once you've formed friendships and social standing under this identity is not nearly as trivial as it may sound. There can be a lot of momentum keeping you moving forward. It is the same momentum that allows each of us to maintain stable cultural, religious, and interest-based identities once we cultivate them. Now, clearly, this is not within the school's responsibility or expertise to vet whether or not transition is appropriate for a given child. This is why we have a healthcare system. This is why psychiatrists exist. Mental health and psychiatric support are effective at helping to sort through these complex feelings and emotions. But that support can only happen if the medical community are involved throughout the process, and the connection between the school and the healthcare system is the family.
Now, even though we dropped off the petition at Minister Lecce's local constituency office, it's been crickets from all levels of government on these issues plaguing school boards, and parents are getting increasingly upset. So we're switching gears. We're going to immediately pivot the campaign and send it to every education minister all across Canada. If you would like to get involved, then head on over to stopclassroomgrooming.com and make sure that you sign the petition so that you can stay up to date with all of our reports and put your name down on paper, and then send an email using our form letter on that same page to email your respective education minister. We already know that at least one province is affirming normalcy. That's New Brunswick, but we're still going to include them to make sure that your voices are being heard and being put, again, on paper. Premier of New Brunswick, Blaine Higgs, recently reinforced the province's commitment to a safe, learning environment that partners with parents instead of works against them. Imagine that. After he received intense backlash from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau around Education Policy 713 that ensures parents are aware of their child's preferred pronouns while at school.
My position as a grandfather and as a father is that I think that kids in especially these vulnerable years in elementary school years, are let's say, toddlers being exposed to, well, I may not be a boy or girl. That is the role that parents need to play a role. Those are very formative years. And so how do we ensure that everyone understands what is being presented, what's in the school system, and then we work through it.
Sure, but I guess I'm wondering, Premier, if your personal views are influencing your policy decisions, because it sounds like they are.
No, Rosemary, it's not about my personal views at all. It's about a role as a parent and a grandparent, and thinking about my grandchildren now that would be attending school, and the fact that her parents would not know what she was being taught or what information was being supplied. Because I think most parents, take for granted that the school system is doing everything that they would approve of. But there's so many things that parents are asked to have their consent on, so many things, and yet gender identity is not one of them. And
the majority of parents in the province agree, according to at least one pollster. A small fringe minority of less than 1/5, a mere 18%, responded that schools shouldn't keep parents informed. Now, if you feel similar to the other majority of parents surveyed, then head on over to stopclassroomgrooming.com, sign our petition, email your education minister, and demand that the public education reflects a tangible curriculum, not theorized ideologues. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. Open a new tab and head on over to stopclassroomgrooming.com. At that website, you can send a form email to your education minister and let them know that you oppose the radical labeling of children through perverse gender ideology and sexual orientation solicitation. While you're there, sign our petition, which we will deliver to each named education minister, and check out all of our previous reports. That's stopclassroomgrooming.com.